Hello, squid and octo kids! Welcome to It's a Splat Theory. I'm your host, Kat, and this video is the fourth and final part of me writing what I would do for the Side Order DLC. If you haven't watched the previous 3 videos, well, you should probably go do that first, since it's important to understand what's about to happen. Watch them? Good. Now let's super jump right into it! Agent 8 and Pearl had lost track of how long they had been there. The light streaming through the very rare window was always the same unnatural yellowish white, and 8 never seemed to truly get tired. They also both lost count of how many rooms with those fish, and what Pearl called fishlings, in them that they had to fight through. It didn't matter. Even though they never seemed to make progress, they would keep going. They didn't have a choice. They were going through just another hallway, after another fight, and neither of them expected anything else than the plain metal, and no sound to be echoing through the hall than 8's footfall and Pearl's hum of the fan keeping her drone in the air. But underneath all of that, they could hear a soft singing. Both of them stopped, and the eyes on the drone went wide. That's Marina's voice! Without a second thought, both of them raced down the hallway. And as they do, something even stranger happens. The hall and floor starts to blur together, and as 8 glances at the wall to her left, for a moment she doesn't see the shiny gray of metal. She sees numbers. Scrolling numbers. She stumbles as she runs, and suddenly she's back in the hallway. "Hurry up, 8! We need to find her!" Pearl shouts at her, still buzzing forward. Agent 8 picks herself up and continues running forward, and she sees Pearl stops when she approaches a corner. 8 slows as she's about to reach it, and looks around the corner. And there Marina is. She's wearing an outfit similar to the one she wore for the Chaos vs. Order Splatfest, with one main addition being a pair of silver glasses covering her eyes. The teal in her tentacles are more muted than before, and they seem to be almost floating around her. She's walking slowly down the hallway, away from them, singing quietly to herself. "Marina!" As Pearl shouts, she stops singing, and her head snaps up, and she turns around quickly. "Marina!" Then she ignores Pearl's cries, and taps something on her wrist. "Marina, what are you doing?" A motorcycle materializes in front of Marina, and she hops on, driving forward as fast as she can. "Marina!" Pearl flies forward, chasing after her, and 8 runs, following them both. But it's no use. Marina is just so much faster than them both. There was nothing either of them could do. After trying to chase her for what feels like hours, Pearl finally slows down. "She was there! We saw her! She heard us! Why did she run?" Pearl's voice breaks, and then the drone goes silent for a while, not saying a word. Agent 8 sinks to the floor and rests her head against the wall. This place just kept getting weirder and weirder. She wasn't honestly convinced that the Marina they saw was even real. Or if she was the real Marina. Or maybe she just didn't want to believe that the real Marina would turn and run away from her and Pearl. Either way, it didn't really matter, because she was gone now, and there didn't seem to be an easy way to get her back. "Come on, 8. We should get a move on." Pearl speaks up after a while, and Agent 8 stands herself up, and they continue walking the hallway in tired, sad silence. Eventually, they just fell back into the groove of finding rooms with fish in them, sending them packing, and moving on. Pearl tried to keep both herself and 8 pumped about this adventure, but her voice was never quite convincing. Whenever they faced more fishlings or their more fishy counterparts, there was an anger and venom in her voice. They exited another room after another fight at the end of another hallway, and they didn't think anything would be different when they did. But then they came across something neither had seen here before. An elevator. It was a normal elevator, with a metal frame and metal doors, with buttons pointing up and down. Pearl and Nate looked at each other. Then the doors to the elevator opened to reveal an octoling. But not just any octoling. This looked like a sanitized octoling. "You with those fish we busted up? Sick 'em, 8! "Cool it, I'm not your enemy. Just another bystander who got sucked in." The wording caught 8 off guard, and Pearl and her exchanged glances once more before 8 shrugs, and they walk into the elevator. "Who are you? What do you want with us? Do you know what's going on here? Why are you in this elevator? What's that thing?" Pearl asks the octoling all at once. "Oh, and I'm Pearl, and this is Agent 8. First things first, I'm Oct, and as for Marina and me, we go way back." "For real? Yo, lead with that next time." "Okay, Pearl, now check out what happens when you put this into the pallet." Oct gives 8 a colored chip and tells her to put it into the pallet, and they teach her how to upgrade her weapons, the Pearl drone and her ink tank. "Whoa, that's sick!" Pearl says, looking over 8's shoulder. "I've had a lot of time to figure out how this place works, and how to use that to my advantage," Oct says. "How long have you been here?" Pearl asks. They shrug. "I'm not sure. Time doesn't seem to work normally here. Now you can get more colored chips by splatting more of those fish, and the more you get, the easier it will be to fight them. And the more you fight them and win, the more answers we may get." 8 nods and Pearl does a little spin. "Then let's get to it, gang!" And get to it they did. Once they figured out how best they worked together, they got into a good rhythm. Agent 8 and Pearl go out, fight some fish, collect information and pallet pieces, and Oct finds more ways to exploit the system, and uses the information 8 and Pearl gather to figure out more about what's going on. After a couple of rounds of going out, Oct found a way into the Pearl drone system, so they can watch and listen to what's going on in real time, as well as communicate with both of them while they're on the field. There was very few hiccups when it came to the new system they set up, but it was always interesting when Oct would throw out weird little warnings. "Don't trust what you see. Don't stare at things too closely. Sometimes it's better to just not know. You don't need to feel bad about splatting them. They're coming at you, and they don't even feel it anyways. And this place isn't like the deep sea Metro 8. It's much worse than that." The last one had caught 8 off guard, and stayed with her a long time. How did Oct know about the deep sea Metro? Then there's Marina. It had been a while since the incident of them first seeing her. It was after another normal round of collecting color chips that they saw her next. She was standing on an elevated platform, her back to Pearl and 8, singing softly once more. "Marina! There you are!" Pearl shouted. "Both of you be careful," Oct said. But Pearl ignored her and rushed forward. "Rena!" Once more Marina looked back, summoned a motorcycle, and then drove away, ignoring Pearl's calls after her. This happened a few more times, and each time Pearl cared less and less, chasing her a bit less farther each time, shouting a bit quieter the more she got ignored. But those weren't the only weird things 8 saw or heard. Every once in a while, out of the corner of 8's eye, or if she focused on something really hard, she wouldn't see whatever was supposed to be there. She would see a streaming line of numbers. Or sometimes she would see little glitches in the walls or floor. It never stayed long enough to point it out, but she knew it was there. It had been a few runs since anything out of the ordinary happened, if you could even say that, since this whole place was out of the ordinary. But there was nothing that was out of place here. 8 had almost filled up the pallet, and then they walked into another room. This one was not filled with swarms of fish, but something Agent 8 found worse. All around her the walls were lined with grinders, ones that were creating a pale ink. What the ink was truly being ground from, she couldn't actually see, but she felt like she knew. She had seen this before. She had been here before. She takes a shaky, uncertain step backwards. You're not in the deep sea metro, Agent 8. We're somewhere else. It has its own problems, but we're not there. Ock's voice cut through 8's thoughts, but her panic was still stronger. She didn't care if it was a different place. It was all the same. She was going to be ground up into ink, the fate she narrowly avoided the first time, and now no one could save her. Marina couldn't. Pearl was just a drone. Acht was in the elevator, who knows how far up or down. She was on her own, and this was it. There was nothing she could do. After all this, everything she's been through, her fate was still sealed. She took another few stumbling steps backwards. 8, are you okay? We can go back. Pearl's voice was cut off by the sudden sound of Marina's singing. Not now, Marina. We're kinda busy. 8 took a deep breath in. Her heart was racing. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. She looks up, and for once Marina doesn't have her back turned to them, but is looking down at them from the edge of the grinder, singing with a soft but sinister and scary smile on her face. As the song reaches 8's ears, it seemed to carry a distant yet familiar laugh, one that had haunted her dreams. Pearl looked up as the song from Marina gets louder. You really are doing this now? For salmon's sake, what happened to you, Rena? Marina ignores her, and seems to really ignore most of what was going on. Agent 8 just wanted to get out of here. She wanted to go home. She splat! A stream of dark blue ink shoots across the room, hitting Marina directly in the chest. She sways, her singing stops, and as she reaches her arm up to where she was hit, it starts to glitch out, and it slowly spreads to the rest of her, turning her into a glitchy mess. Splat! Another shot of ink hits her, and this time she stumbles backwards and falls, and 8 closes her eyes and turns away. Marina! Pearl's voice rang out. Slowly, 8 opened her eyes, and there was no sign of Marina. No! Marina! Pearl sounded panicked, and Axe didn't say a word. And then suddenly something orange jumped down. Neither 8 nor Pearl truly saw from where. Then suddenly standing before them, in orange pants and jacket, with a black shirt and headphones, with purplish brown and blue tentacles, and holding a charger, was Marina. Marina? Miss me, Pearly? What? How? What just happened? Pearl sounded absolutely astounded, and 8 shook her head, dumbfounded and confused. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I just splatted myself, Marina says with a little bit of a laugh. Pearl looks this new Marina over and then sighs, the noise of it transmitting through the drone. You are going to explain everything that's going on here, Marina. But first, I'm so glad you're okay. I've missed you so much, Rena. Don't ever do that again. Do what again? Marina asks, a laugh in her tone of voice. I'm not quite sure, but make sure you don't do it, alright? Pearl responds, a playful pout in her voice. Alright. Marina grabs the drone and gives her a hug. I've missed you too, Pearl. Hey, not to break up the reunion, but we have some more pressing matters, and maybe you could resume this once we've actually gotten out of here? Act's voice cut through the hug. Act, is that you? Marina asks, her eyes wide with surprise. The one and only, they reply. Where are you? I'm in the elevator. 8 and Pearl can lead the way. Marina nods and then turns to 8. 8, it's been so long. I'm so glad you're okay. She gives 8 a quick embrace before asking her to lead the way. When everyone finally meets back in the elevator, Pearl and Acht catch Marina up on what has happened on their side of things. And then Marina explains everything she knows. This place isn't what it seems, although you already do know that. But this place isn't even Inkopolis. Quite a while ago, I started creating these programs. I wanted to see how much I could push technology. And I created some simulations. I think I pushed it too far. From everything I've seen, I think the program became sentient and sucked all of us in. But what about the version of you we kept seeing? Pearl asked, with Marina replying that it is a simulation after all. It needed people to simulate. All this is great and all, says Acht, but what we really need is something to get us out of here. Marina pulls a phone out of her pocket and projects what looks like a map of the building onto the wall of the elevator. This is the building we're in, named the Spire of Order. From the information I've gathered, the base code seems to have taken a form at the top of the spire. If we can find it and fight it, the program might see us as a threat and boot us out, back into the real world. Or it will perceive us as a threatening virus and delete us out of existence, Acht points out. Yes, but we don't have another choice, and I trust Marina on this, Pearl adds. Everyone looks at 8. You'd have to be right there at the front line, 8. So what do you say? Marina asked. Agent 8 looks around the elevator and nods. She'd do it. She wants to go home. And if this is their only shot, she'd risk it. Then that settles it! Let's do this, team! Marina and Acht get up, and they start fiddling with the elevator panel. Eventually, they get it to go all the way up to the top, to the very end of the spire. Before the doors open, Act stops Marina, Pearl, and 8. Listen, if we do get out of this alive and back into the real world, they start, then take a deep breath. Come find me. I'm still trapped in the deep sea metro, and I need all of your guys' help to get me out of there. Please. They all look at each other and nod. Then Marina pulls Act into a hug. We'll find you, Act. I promise. The doors don't open, but the room around them starts to glitch, and then they're all in a giant room, with weapons in their hands. 8 has her dollies, Marina a charger, and Act with an octo brush. And in front of them is a giant thing. It's like an upside-down metal covered in red eyes cake. It was so huge it didn't look like it should fit inside the tower. And then they started forward, attacking the thing. It was hard. Not only did they have to fight something that seemed to barely take any damage, it sent swarms of those fish and fishlings after them. There were times 8 didn't think they would make it. But they did. Well, not exactly. They didn't destroy the thing. Agent 8 Act and the Pearl drone had cleared the way, and Marina had lined up the perfect shot. She was aiming and just about to pull the trigger, and then the whole room, no, the whole world turned into a blur of numbers. And then it was just darkness. Marina sits up straight, waking up in the chair in front of her desk. Her computer is turned on, and the computer tower is radiating heat. She quickly shuts all the running programs off, then deletes all the coding she had created when making the simulations. A few days after the whole incident, Marina, Pearl, the real Pearl, in the flesh, and Agent 8 meet together in Inkopolis Square. Well, that was quite an adventure, Pearl says, with a slight laugh. I'm so sorry you all got sucked into my whole mess, Marina sighs, looking down. 8 shrugs and takes a sip of her ink charge melon. They were silent for a while, but all their thoughts and all their eyes were wandering to the same place, the deep sea metro. So, when do we go back down? And that's all for this series. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, super jump over to that like button, splat the subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And as always, stay fresh, stay off the hook, stay cool, and catch you later, Squid and Octo kids!